Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to start today with first and foremost, it's called Close the Border, Arm the Citizens, Stop Taxing All of Us, Fire All the Politicians, and pretty much we start off from there. I want to start out because what happens is this. I'm going to get into the whole crux of our channel, and what I want to just kind of talk to you about today is the fact is that according to our scientists and the people that we know, and people that we love and we trust, pretty much the sky is burning in New York City. The Canadian wildfire ashes from 500 miles away, as power hungry New York State government encroaches again upon New Yorkers' natural right to smell smoke. So what happens again? This is one of those things where they're constantly trying new things. I went out today. My wife and kids and I all went out today, and we were able to see for ourselves the aftermath. And we started. If you live here in New York, you smell something in the air. If you like, we live here in New York, we live in Queens, and not too far from LaGuardia Airport. And what happens? We can smell the city, and the city is smelling bad. So yes, the sky is burning. So what happens? If you look on the picture I have there, to your right, you see that I have a picture where the sky is yellow. All the sunlight coming through. You can actually look and see the sun. And we actually decided to take upon ourselves and go to the Bronx Zoo. So we went to the Bronx Zoo because we had registered tickets to go see it. And I made a couple of videos when I was there. Actually, after we're done, just kind of talking about the things that happened at the Bronx Zoo. Anyway, so what happens is like when we were there, the sky was hazy. Sometimes it got a little difficult to breathe. And really, what it smells like, if you've ever been to a campfire has it where the smell of a campfire is that of burnt trees. It smells like burnt trees because you're burning wood, and when you burn wood, it's that smell that what do you smell when you're there. So, what is bizarre to most of us and bizarre to all of us is the fact that you know um, the fact is that when you look at what has happened or how our mayor himself discusses, there's no conversation from Hochul. Hochul doesn't talk anymore. She's just kind of being quiet. She's done her damage and now she's out of the limelight. But so we have the guy Mr. Eric Adams, his honorable Mr. Eric Adams is there speaking to us about how we should better ourselves. And one of the things we're here is the article there for you. It says New York City Mayor Eric Adams on Wednesday says air quality is deteriorating across the five boroughs due to smoke from wildfires in Canada. So what I want to did, I want to go and found some articles to read, and so a couple articles from this is one article. It's by Ed Shannon, and it says right here. It says with air quality expected to deteriorate throughout the day Wednesday, Eric Adams said public schools would not offer outdoor activities. Eric Adams warned that air conditions are expected to deteriorate further on Wednesday in New York City, and this is from Ed Shanahan, and it's this was June 7, 2023. Let's see. Mayor Eric Adams says in the news release late Tuesday that by 10 p.m., air quality in parts of New York City has become very unhealthy, rising to 218 on the Environmental Protection Agency's Air Quality Index, they call AQI. New York's air quality rating briefly ranked as the worst of any city in the world on Tuesday, according to the IQA World Air Quality Index. Air Quality Index. By comparison, the city's air quality has generally been below 50 on the index in recent year, in the good category, and even improved during the pandemic, driving lockdowns in 2020, according to the IQ Air. While conditions are anticipated to temporarily improve later tonight, through tomorrow morning, they're expected to be deteriorating further tomorrow afternoon and evening. Mr. Adams warned. He noted that the state's Department of Environmental Conservation had issues of a citywide air quality health advisory. The mayor indicated that the city's schools would be open on Wednesday and be urged all students to attend, but he to add the school would not be holding outdoor activities. So pretty much the kids are going to be once again locked indoors, just like how during the pandemic everybody was locked indoors. As a matter of fact, we were not unaware to any of this stuff because we homeschool our children. And so for the most part, what happened with us was that we planned with other homeschool families to go to the Bronx Zoo, and so we did. We actually went to the Bronx Zoo, and I have some pictures I'm going to show you, I guess. I might show you. I might show you on my other webpage or even on my Instagram. I might see some of the pictures that we did when we went to the zoo, and so you can partake of some of the wonderful things that we saw. We saw a lot of really wonderful animals there. It was overcast with the orange sky, of course. So I keep calling it red sky because there was a movie it was V, and V on the ABC. There was the original V from 1985. 84, I guess, or 85. And then there's a V, the remake of it, where these alien people come into Earth and pretty much they're reptilians. And, pretty much I call all in government reptilians because what happens is that they have proven themselves to be untrustworthy. And many times you look at the situation here with what we were facing here, and the reason why I started off with fire all the politicians is because when you look at the damage that's been done, let me show you the map real quick. I'll show you the map of our city, air quality test. Let's see. I'll show you the map. I'm going to expand it. You see this one here. If you look into it carefully, I'm going to make it bigger. You have the air quality ratio. This is Wednesday, right? And this is the air quality Wednesday morning according to airnow.gov. You see this? You see the little area right there where it's all red? So that area is considered hazardous, right? A little north of that, right there, you have the bottom of New York. And the bottom of New York, you have the city. So I'm going to make you just kind of zoom in even more so you can see. So you have this here, and you're looking at this thing here. You see it right here. This I'm going to try and put it in the center of the screen so you can see. Center of the screen, you have New York City, and New York City is right there. Now you know where Quebec is. Well, let's see. Pretty much we drove up to Quebec. Quebec is right here. Now you see where Quebec is, and that's where we go straight up. With my family and I, we went there several times to Quebec, and also we also went to let's see Montreal, which I guess is the whole area. If you look at that, you see how the damage is. Damage is disproportionately going from everywhere straight down to New York City. And yeah, I'm no climate expert or wind expert or weather expert, but what happens is that you see the conglomeration of that is heading right to New York and also Ohio over here, center right there. You have Ohio and you have like Michigan on the top there. So you look at all that stuff and it's heading towards us, and we have a heavy, heavy duty thing. It doesn't even hit us heavy. It's actually the most heaviest part is down by. Let's see, that like where Biden lives, I think. That's over in Delaware. It's actually the heaviest location, most hazardous if you look at it. It's over in stinking Delaware. Wow, how is that so? How's that possible? I'm not even sure. It's also covering Washington D.C. So those yahoos are in Washington D.C. are going through the situation. So look, even have bad quality air all the way over there. Let's see what state is that. That's let's see. I'm gonna see. So Colorado, and then you have I think that's Idaho. So there's a Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota. You got Wisconsin over there. Okay, so you have this one that has a red part right there. That one I think it's I think it's Idaho. If it's in Idaho, then it's maybe it's Iowa. And I gotta know my stuff better in terms of state, because I don't live out there. I live over here on the East Coast. Okay, so I'll have to kind of go back and figure out what that one is. But you got the North Dakota, South Dakota, and then right next to it you got Colorado. That could be Montana. That could actually be Montana. All right, so anyway, come back to you on that. Long story short, what I'm trying to say is that the majority of the damages and the bad air, the most hazardous index is right over Washington, D.C., even more so than New York, right? But upstate itself is kind of missing out. I have a family member who lives upstate, and what happens when you look at it, they don't even talk about the air quality or the situation that they're facing because honestly, I don't think they're even facing a situation up there. So it's like for us here in New York, the sky is orange, okay? The sky is orange. And that goes back to my next point I was going to say was about like why did this even happen? Now, without me really looking into it, I just kind of decided to make a video real quick, and I said, let me just go ahead and talk to you guys about what's going on. And what I understand, there are several things at work, right? Just me just guessing here. I'm going to say these things right here. First and foremost, we know the government wants to control you. So I say this is a maintenance issue. The new climate policies and ESG, each country is doing some kind of a weird climatey type thing where they want to go ahead and make sure they inconvenience people as much as possible because the carbon footprint they want to get rid of is us. We are the carbon footprint they want to get rid of because at the end of the day, it's not farting cows, nor is it burning forests, or is it even industrialization. It's the people. They're always going to come down to the bottom line of the people. When they talk about the recycling stuff, they talk about the pollution. Even when we went to the Bronx Zoo today, they were talking about like how the conservation. They showed a whole bunch of pictures of the animals getting hurt, and eventually you see that the animals themselves are suffering at the hands of us wicked human beings. And so it comes down to us, and what it doesn't mean like us as in the few who rule the companies and change the world with their earth shakers. No, no, no. It comes down to us, individual people, we who just want to go live our lives, who are trying to make sure we can pay our bills before the end of the month happens and pay for our food so we don't starve or have to go panhandle or beg or anything like that. So what happens is that we look at this and what they say to us is that it's all our fault and we have to have that. So they blame us for this. So whenever a country gets a high ESG rating, it's to the detriment of its citizens. For example, they say that in the case of ESG, if you don't know what ESG is, go look it up because I could tell it to you, but I might just tell it to you anyway. But for the most part, though, it's a rating that the powers that be, including like You got the World Economic Forum. You know, one thing I found about the World Economic Forum, WEF, if you write it backwards, it's FEW, which stands for few, and it's really crazy. It's just kind of a thought there, the word few. So, anyway, so what happens? They have new climate policies, and they have the Great Reset and things they want to work at. And they have this new rules for forests and rivers. Rivers and forests are having life and having rights, so you can get arrested for hurting a river's feelings and doing things. I use feelings as an example, but the bottom line of what it's saying is that you have a situation where the the people are saying the forests and the rivers have rights, and also the land animals there. So they have it where these forests go untethered, unkept. So nobody's taking care of them because they want to leave them as natural as possible. So when a fire happens, like in the case we're going through, the environmental people who have been shouting for this for people to leave the rivers and things about maintenance, because God says in the beginning that we're supposed to subdue the earth and take care of the earth and take care of the animals on the earth and to be good stewards of this world that He gave for us to be in control. And so what we do, we gave it to Satan, and let Satan just do whatever he wants with it. To the point where when He asked Jesus was on the he was being tempted, that we being tested by the devil, right? And tested by the devil in the wilderness. The devil even says that all this land has been given to me, all the power, the kingdoms of the earth have been given to me. And so if you want them to, just bow down and worship, I'll give them to you. So what happens is that the control of what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to maintain this earth and supposed to be in charge of it and subdue it and rule over it because that's what God says. Anyway, so what happened after that was that we gave our rights over to the devil and also our rights to the government. And what happened? We just let the forest go. So you have this thing called the underbrush, right? And so what happens when things get hot and yes they do, things burn and it causes fire. So when anything happens like that in fire, they want to go ahead and what are they going to do to put it out? Because the fire is good for, believe it or not, good fire is good for forests because what it does is actually cleanse it out. So they have gone through the whole 9 yards. Again, let me show you that picture again. Whole 9 yards of being able to show us that this landscape that we have is, it's heading right for us. It's kind of deadline right for us. It's almost like it's a control strike, if you really think about it, how it works. That pretty much the air quality of the city. And see, when they do these things, they don't just do something. They actually do something to the point where they want to take something away from us, right? So it's not just a matter of like they do it and they say, okay, you know what? It's for a temporary time. No, they take away a right. Every time that these government officials encroach, they take away a right. So now they're saying that pretty much to go back to reading the article, but before we go and say that the government wants to control you. They want to control you, want to control of your hopes and your dreams and your children's hopes and dreams. And so pretty much the way they spend and the way they tax, they pretty much have control of our hopes and our dreams because what they do is that they tax us into oblivion. So I'm just going to switch back to some things here that I have. And so I'm just going to hit you with this because, this is kind of like the thoughts I'm thinking now. The government tells us one thing we're supposed to see, and instead of it being one thing we're supposed to see, when it's happening, we see something that we're not. So, for example, we all can see for ourselves that there is haze in the air, right? So there's the haze in the air. We can see that for ourselves. We can see that there's something up there in the sky. We can see that it's orange, and I would see that's something temporary. Now, we don't know if the government is actually helping this to happen. We do know the government is trying their best to control because the first thing they do, as we were driving to the zoo this morning, there was tons of traffic. And as we were driving there, everything is a controlled demolition because it's one of those things where there's no reason for there to be like a lane of traffic that in the middle of the day for them to be doing construction when everybody's trying to go to work in the morning. I mean, there's afternoon, there's evening, there's all kind of time they could do this. It would not be the inconvenience to mankind, but instead they go out of their way to be inconveniencing us because what they do, they do it well. Next thing too, both sets of bridges, you got the Throgneck and the Whitestone Bridge that was kind of blocked, so you can't even get there, across to the bridge to go up to, I believe Queens to go to the paid bridges, mind you, bridges you have to pay for to go across as toll bridges to go to the zoo. And then praise God, it's free on Wednesday to go to the zoo. But for the most part, though, it's like you still have to get there, and to get there, you have to go through traffic, and you still have to pay for parking. And by grace of God, we were able to find parking, so it's good. But usually, you have to pay for parking. Anyway, so what happens is that you go through that. Next thing you have it where they're telling us what's going on. So they're shutting things down. So the zoo, our time with the zoo is supposed to be from 11 or 10 a.m. to 4 o'clock, right? And so that's what happened. It used to be 10 to 5, but they thought, it's better to just kind of like cut it back 10 to 4. So we're like, okay, we're cool with that. It kind of put it in our mind. When we get there, we have a good time. We spend some time learning stuff. We go out, walk around. We actually got the chance to see the great apes and the biggest of all, the gorilla. First time in my life I got a chance to see a gorilla up close. It was really cool. Got a chance to see some really cool animals, a whole bunch of reptiles. I love the reptile house. Anyway, so long story short, got a chance to do all that, and I was able to see a lot of things. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because it's letting you know that this is the scenario. This is what we go to see. And the picture there you have is when we're in the zoo itself. I have more pictures I'm going to share with you. I just have to calibrate the system, but I'll share on my Instagram. Anyway, long story short, these are some of the things that we were dealing with and having to deal with and having to go through. And so, long story short, we get there. It's a controlled demolition because they are trying to blame us for this. They're trying to make it into a climate crisis, that this was because of climate change, which to them means anything. It could be up, down. It could be 1 degree up, 2 degrees down, 3 degrees forward, 3 degrees back. Do the hokey pokey. And what happens? They'll say whatever they want to say. They went from being global warming to global cooling in the 70s, global warming in the 80s, and then even Captain Planet, he's our hero. The whole Captain Planet thing. Well, that was kind of to just show how bad we are as people again, and that how we are the carbon that they're trying to get rid of. So, anyway, long story short, I say that a lot. What happens is that it comes down to that the government's starting to encroach again, slowly but surely, into another right they want to take away. And I'm terrified in terms of like the fact that what these government is able to do, not because of what the government itself can do, but because the people who believe what the government can do, what they do. Because when you really think about it, right? It's like when we were going through the whole thing with the pandemic, right? It wasn't the government per se that was giving us trouble. The government said what it said, and the people took it upon themselves to become enforcers of these things. So when they became enforcers of these things, it was people doing horrendously wicked things to one another. Now it was like it went from being like suggestive, and that you have your opportunity to take a chance to do this, to becoming one of those things where people were like hunting their own neighbors down and becoming very very vindictive, very very horrible. It's if you really want to see what a person does is you give them power. You give them the right to do whatever you want, and then they will take that right and they will do whatever they want with it. Only the moral compass and only the moral fear of God in a person's heart is what keeps a person from going off the deep end and off the rails. Because when you really, really, really think about it, it's like the government got people up in a frenzy. They got them to believe and to go in one direction, and in that one direction, they were able to go and get people to do all manner of hard, bad dealings to their friends and family. People have lost friendship because of this thing. People have lost, common sense, friends and loved ones, and never get a chance to visit them anymore. Why? Because like when they saw that was happening, they realized how bad and how badly that person had turned. So it's like you look at these people and you see what happened, what they are able to do. They already have a press conference where they talk with their quote unquote their experts. I'm going to use a quotation mark. They're experts to come up there and talk about air quality. Now, what do they have to do with anything? What can they possibly do with anything? Can they? You see these people here, see people on the side here. You think they can actually do something that's going to be able to change the situation? I mean, they're going to talk. They're going to do the talk, talk, talk. And what's going to happen? Our friends are going to hear the talk, talk, talk. And those who understand or listen will believe what, and then they're going to come back and talk to us and say, "Hey, hey, did you hear what he said? What the government says? What the government said? What the government said? What the government said? What the government said?" Yeah, and the government says this, and the government doesn't even enforce it. But what happens? Your friends and neighbors are going to enforce it. See, we learned a very powerful lesson during COVID that people, when they're afraid, they'll do whatever it takes to protect themselves. And so, by the grace of God, you got to pray for your friends, those who believe, those who took the jab, those who wore the mask, those who really believe that this thing was a real thing when they went through it. That then later to find out that it's all even the jabs weren't even helpful and useful. It was an agenda to push the lobbyists in Hollywood. The Bible talks about by pharmakia all the nations will be deceived in Revelation 18. And so they was deceived. They deceived all the nations. That they wanted to put something, and all of a sudden, what? COVID's gone. There's no such thing as COVID anymore. Who knew, right? Well, us conspiracy people knew. As a matter of fact, we conspiracy realists because what happened? We understood. We saw the pattern. We saw the tea leaves. We saw the situation. We God gave us wisdom. He warned us. He gave us understanding to say, listen, don't do this. And now we have people left and right, dealing with all the stupid distractions, going through the situations, and all they're doing is going through the tests. I have family members who are going through tests, and going through things because they listen to the society, listen to the lies, listen to the science, right? 15 days slow to spread, and as much as I was interested in Trump back in the day, is how much I'm not interested in him now. And so to him, to me, his name is mud to me. I mean, it's like I listen to all the stuff he talks about. And he came in promising the sky, and he gave us, more dirt to eat. So his name is mud to me. So again, I just want to kind of go back and say, this is what we are up against. We are up against a situation where we are being blamed for the climate crisis, and they kind of just go into that and go into great and vast details about how bad our society is because something that we did. But in all honesty, we know that we are the carbon footprint they wish to remove. We are just humans, and at the end of the day, by the grace of God, we live. So you know, I just wanted to kind of bounce that off you, and let me know what you think in the comments, and pretty much there's so much stuff that we can say and we can do, but pretty much it's the politicians, it's the businesses, they do these things, and so the only way for us to combat that is how they've been doing. We fight with our wallets. We don't participate with those corporations anymore. We start boycotting them. We start not giving our money to them. We start like doing things, start going out and enjoying our life because you know what? Because eventually if we don't, like I was saying before, I get scary. If we don't go out and exercise our right, what happens is called a tacit compliance, right? I'm gonna write it there so you can see it. I'm gonna put it in the thing. It's a tacit compliance, right? I'm gonna add that to this here. Let me just I'm gonna write a word, tacit compliance there. So I'm just gonna add words right here. All right, let me just put that there for you. Text, right? And it's gonna be called. I'm gonna add a new one, and it's going to be called, select the font first. Let's go this one, 100, right? And I'm going to write it here. It's called tacit compliance. Tacit compliance. You know what tacit compliance means? Well, I may be wrong with this explanation, but how I understand it to be is that tacit compliance means, let's see. Oh, you can't see it because I'm working over there. Tacit compliance, what it means is that you have the opportunity to resist something. And if you don't resist something when the opportunity is presented to you, like for example, somebody tells a bad joke about your family member, and you don't say anything to say, listen, man, that's not funny talking bad about my my aunt or my uncle or my grandfather or whatever. At that point, my mom and dad. Everybody who gets mad when we talk about your mom, but we talk about somebody in your family that you don't get a chance to think. It's called tacit compliance. You kind of by not saying something, by omission, by not saying anything, you actually agree to what's being done. So the best way to do and not agree is to resist. And so resist not like 10 years down the road. Sometimes the hard part is kind of knowing when to act because the Bible says if you answer matter before you hear it, it's called folly and shame. I'm gonna write that there for you. It's just to tell it to you, I guess. If you answer matter before you hear it, it's folly and shame. And the folly and shame aspect of it all is that if you can't judge a matter until you hear it completely. But if, for example, you haven't heard it completely and you go and you jump into it, what ends up happening is that later the subject of the matter could change. For example, somebody could say like, what if I decide to, and then you just answer the question, you don't even know what the next statement's going to be. It could be like, I could decide to give you $5, give you $500. I decide to leave, decide to, get a pizza. You don't know what the person's going to say next. And if you try and answer, and I've done this a million times with my wife, where I've tried to answer a matter before she completes her thought. What ends up happening is that it's a bad thing because, you're not really supposed to do that. So with the tacit compliance aspect, you are to fight. If you don't fight, right? If you don't fight in terms of like not fight physically, but if you don't fight by resisting, by letting people know, it becomes harder. For every day you go along with something that you totally agree with, the Bible says disagree with, it goes from being like a mere annoyance to becoming a great deal of annoyance, which becomes intolerable because the more you have something that you don't like. For example, you have a spider in your house, you can do one or two things. You can let the spider live, or you can catch the spider, hunt it down, and get rid of them. If you have a deadly spider in your house, you have no option but to get that spider out. If you have a scorpion or even a rattlesnake or something that'll kill you if it catches you, you have a duty to get rid of that thing. So if you have like something that's like if a ghost in your house, you have to get rid of it because it's Ghostbusters and things like that. You have to get rid of it because if you don't, it's gonna come back to get you later when you least expect it. So this is called tacit compliance, and by the fact that we keep voting for these people to come into power, and all they do is they take what they have and they get what they want, and they get more lobbies and more money. They go into $147,000 a year to go out, come out millionaires. And how do they do that? They come up with deals. They have inside trading. They know all these different things, and we personally are at the mercy of these people who don't care. And that's again the tacit compliance. Next one is pretty much just have the thing where, again, we are faced with the sky, and really they're ready to hit us with some kind of rules and regulations. And I'm not for that. That's what we went to do. So listen, I could talk forever, but I just want to say thank you so much for listening to me right now. This could I hope this helps you out somewhere, because I mean I just look at all this stuff that we're a part of, and I'm a flat earther. And but the thing is, like, what happens? Because we see the world differently. We've been seeing the world differently ever since 2015 with this regarding the flat Earth. But for the most part, ever since my mother passed away, I began looking into the whole truth and movement, because these experts were the ones who killed my mom, who unalived my mother by not doing good by her, because she trusted them, and instead of the trust being fulfilled, the trust in them was betrayed. So again, I just want to say thank you. Remember the word tacit compliance, where we go along with something. Our boss says, I need you to work 3 hours after your time to go home. And so you say, okay, next time they'll say, okay, I need you to work 4 hours. You said, but I can't do this time. Oh, well, you did it last time. And that's how it is. And that's how the Adam and Eve thing kind of works out. So I wish you all the best. Please look into all my things, my works and things that I do. Yeah, please look into my kids' channels. My kids' channels are here. You can follow their channels. It's Google Air Studios and Arsenal Productions. You can find all my links um in my Instagram. You can find all my links from my Instagram. That's a long day to go to the zoo. My Instagram. You can also find it at my linktree.com right here. You can find me. That's where you'll find me if you look for me. All right. So I just want to let you know that that's kind of the situation there. So I want to wish you God bless you, and thank you so much for all that you've done, in terms of looking at all our artwork and things. But for the most part, though, thank you so much for just being here for so long. All right, so I had a long day. I just want to say thank you so much, and God bless you. And back to this one. Find all my links here for all of my work at One Life Martial Art. And that's it for now. I just want to say thank you and good night. All right, God bless you.